January 4, 2023, Enoch, Utah. Inside a quiet, snow-covered house, police step into pure silence. And something much worse. 7 people lie dead. 5 children. A mother. A father. Each room tells a story, of betrayal, of fear, of a goodbye no one ever heard. Moments before the massacre, Tausha Haight had filed for divorce. She didn't know her husband Michael had read the papers. That night, he took a gun, moved room to room. The youngest victim, just 4 years old. Why did no one see it coming? Why did the system fail? And what chilling note did he leave behind? This is not fiction. It's a real case. Subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because what we uncover next will haunt you. January 4, 2023, 11:03 a.m. Enoch, Utah, United States. The snow was soft that morning. Powder white. Quiet. The neighborhood of Enoch looked like a Christmas postcard, even though the holidays had ended. Lights still dangled from rooftops. Wreaths still clung to doors. Mailboxes were frozen shut. And everyone, it seemed, was still shaking off the holidays. Except one house didn't. Police pulled up to 472 North Albert Drive. No movement. No signs of life. They knocked once. Then again. No answer. Officers looked at each other. They had received a call, a welfare check. A family of 8 wasn't answering. And one of them was a child who didn't show up to school. A third knock. Louder. Still nothing. So they entered. What they found would freeze even the most experienced officers. It was quiet. Too quiet. Like the house itself knew something terrible had happened. No footsteps. No voices. No signs of struggle, at first. A child's backpack was still on the floor near the door. A lunchbox sat on the kitchen counter. Half prepared. No one had touched it. They moved slowly. Room by room. And then, in the first bedroom, 2 small children. Still. Lifeless. One officer stumbled back. The silence turned into heavy breathing. Another room. 2 more children. A girl. A boy. Down the hall, a teenage girl. Then a woman. Face turned away. Motionless. And finally, the father. Michael Haight. Dead from a self-inflicted gunshot. Just days before, they looked like the perfect family. Michael Haight, 42. A licensed insurance agent. Deeply involved in the local Mormon community. Tausha Haight, 40. Kind. Active in her church. A devoted mother of 5. And the children, Macy, Briley, Sienna, Ammon, and Gavin. Ranging in age from 4 to 17. They laughed together. Prayed together. Took family photos in matching pajamas. They looked like a model family. So what happened? What no one saw, or maybe didn't want to see, was the slow, quiet unraveling. Tausha had been struggling for years. Michael was controlling. Angry. According to close friends and family, he often isolated Tausha from others. Even their children, at times, were afraid of him. He didn't hit. But he didn't need to. His control was psychological. Subtle. Dangerous. She wanted out. On December 21, 2022, just 2 weeks before the tragedy, she filed for divorce. She had told a close friend, "I can't keep pretending we're okay." She thought she had taken the first step toward freedom. But Michael had other plans. A few days before the killings, Michael quietly removed all guns from the home. They weren't his. They belonged to Tausha and her family. She never noticed they were gone. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't threaten. On the outside, he acted calm, maybe too calm. On January 3rd, the day before the tragedy, Michael quit his job. No one at his work knew why. He didn't give a reason. That same evening, he had dinner with the family like normal. They prayed. He kissed his kids goodnight. Then waited. Police believe the murders happened during the night of January 3rd or early morning hours of the 4th. Michael moved through the house with quiet steps. Each room, one by one. He started with the children. Likely while they slept. Then tausha. Finally, himself. 7 victims. None fought back. None screamed. None had a chance. By noon, word spread. First among police. Then school officials. Then neighbors. By 3 p.m., the mayor of Enoch had issued a statement. "It's a tragedy we never imagined here. These were good people. We are stunned." Local churches opened their doors. Counselors were brought in for grieving classmates and teachers. News vans arrived. And slowly, the world began to learn what had happened behind the beige front door. No official note was found in the house. But something more chilling surfaced. Michael's family, particularly his in-laws, shared messages they had received in the days leading up to the killings. They were vague, controlling, ominous. In one text, Michael wrote, "They're trying to ruin me. But I won't let them." Tausha's mother, who lived nearby, had grown afraid. She told police weeks earlier that Michael was very dangerous and manipulative. But there was no restraining order. No official report of abuse. And no legal reason to remove him from the home. This is a real story. Every fact you hear is public. You can check it yourself. If real-life mysteries leave you breathless, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because the next truth we uncover might hit even closer to home. Why didn't the system protect tausha? Why weren't the guns found and taken? Why was Michael allowed to stay in the home? These questions lit up the state of Utah. Lawmakers began reviewing domestic violence policies. The LDS Church, to which the Haight family belonged, issued a statement of sorrow and support. But it didn't undo the truth. 5 children, wiped out in one night. A mother, silenced before she could escape. A father, remembered not for who he was, but for what he did. 2 days before her death, tausha posted a quote online. It read, "Don't let anyone dim your light just because it's shining in their eyes." Was it a cry for help? A moment of hope? Or something she knew deep down? No one can say. But that message remains, frozen in time, just like the snow on their roof, now untouched. December 28, 2022. Tausha Haight stood in the kitchen, hands trembling. She was stirring soup. The children played in the other room, unaware. Michael sat at the table, silent, watching her. Not speaking. Just staring. That silence was worse than yelling. She had filed the divorce papers days before. Michael hadn't reacted, at least not how she expected. No rage. No begging. Just an icy calm. But that stare? It was cold. Final. Tausha had seen that look before. The kind that made her body tense up, like it knew something her brain didn't. Something dangerous was coming. To the outside world, Michael Haight was a respected man. He was active in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He coached his children's sports teams. He showed up to neighborhood events. But at home, things were different. Friends and family said he kept tausha on a tight leash. She rarely went anywhere without telling him first. He read her texts, monitored her phone. She had to ask to visit her own parents. Even her children felt the pressure. One daughter confided to a teacher, "I hate when Daddy's home. We're not allowed to laugh." In their church community, divorce was not taken lightly. It was considered shameful, a sign of spiritual failure. Tausha had hesitated for months before filing. But it was her sister-in-law, Jenny Earl, who encouraged her. Jenny knew the signs. She had seen the fear in Tausha's eyes. She told her, "You're allowed to leave. God doesn't want you trapped." So Tausha made the leap. She filed for divorce. But Michael? To him, it was the ultimate betrayal. After the tragedy, investigators scoured Michael's devices. What they found added layers to the mystery. He had searched for terms like how to make your wife pay for divorce punishment in Mormon teachings, life insurance and suicide rules. But he also visited church blogs. Ones that condemned divorce. Ones that praised patriarchal control. It wasn't just about pain, it was about punishment. Michael didn't want Tausha to suffer. He wanted her to regret. 3 days before the murders, the family took a group photo. It was at Tausha's mother's house. Everyone wore smiles. But if you look closely, and the internet would, later, there's something off. Michael's smile was tight. Forced. The kids looked uncomfortable. Tausha's eyes, sad. Almost pleading. Her sister took the photo and later said, "I didn't know it would be the last time we saw them alive." That photo would later be plastered across news stations and headlines. A perfect family. Frozen. Before everything shattered. Without warning, Michael removed all guns from the home. They were locked away. Unreachable. They belonged to Tausha and her family. She didn't notice, not right away. Michael did it quietly. When asked later why no red flags were raised, authorities said there were no restraining orders, no legal cause to search or intervene. But those close to Tausha say that's the problem. She had reached out for help, just not in ways that counted legally. She had spoken to family, to friends, even hinted to church leaders. But nothing formal. Nothing that could stop what was coming. On January 3rd, Tausha wrote in her private journal. The entry was short. A list, really. Call lawyer, pack his school stuff, email counselor, look at rentals, be strong. Those 2 words, be strong, were underlined twice. That night, she tucked her children into bed. She had no idea it would be for the last time. That same night, Michael went into each of his children's rooms. No one knows exactly how he did it. The police have not released full details. But what is known is this. None of the children called for help. None showed signs of fighting back. It likely happened while they slept. Then, he turned on Tausha. Then, himself. All within hours. The house was locked from the inside. When officers entered the next morning, they were prepared for a welfare check. What they walked into was a mass murder-suicide. The family dog sat quietly in the living room. No barking. No signs of a struggle. Toys were still on the carpet. Cereal boxes on the counter. One child had a blanket wrapped around them, like they had never woken up. The horror wasn't loud. It was quiet. Precise. Like it had been planned for weeks. The funeral was held days later. All 8 caskets, lined up in a row. 5 small ones. 2 adult ones. 1 closed. The entire town showed up. Church leaders. Police. Teachers. Neighbors. But not everyone agreed on how to speak about the killer. At the funeral, Michael Haight's obituary shocked the country. It painted him as a loving father, a faithful church member, and a man of service. Nowhere did it mention the murders. The backlash was immediate. People were furious. News outlets across the country picked it up. How can you praise a man who murdered his entire family? The obituary was taken down. But the damage was done. The community was divided. Some believed Michael had snapped under stress. Others saw no excuse. But all agreed on one thing: the signs had been there. And somehow, they had all been missed. This is not fiction. Every detail is part of a real case that you can verify yourself. These were real people. Real children. A real family destroyed, in silence. Enoch, Utah had never experienced anything like this. Counselors were brought into every school. Children asked heartbreaking questions like, why did their daddy hurt them? Can my daddy do that too? A memorial was built outside the Haight home. Stuffed animals. Photos. Candles. Notes. One note read, I didn't know your names, but I saw your faces. And I won't forget you. As the case spread across the internet, true crime forums and domestic violence experts chimed in. Some believed Michael had a clear plan from the moment Tausha filed for divorce. Others believed it was a mix of religious shame, ego collapse, and quiet rage. One expert said, he didn't just want to kill. He wanted to control the narrative, even in death. And maybe that's why he smiled in that last photo. Could it have been stopped? If Tausha had a restraining order? If someone noticed the missing guns? If the church had done more? These questions hang in the cold Utah air like frozen breath. There are no clear answers. Only silence. Imagine Tausha standing by the door, just before midnight. She checks the locks. Hears a noise. Turns. And then, nothing. January 5, 2023, news breaks nationwide. Breaking: Haight family members found dead in Enoch, Utah. The headline swept across America like wildfire. At first, most people assumed it was a tragic gas leak. Or maybe a robbery gone wrong. But when police confirmed it was a murder-suicide by the father, the public froze. 8 people. 5 of them children. Killed in their own home. By the man who had once tucked them in that night. A man who neighbors said seemed like such a good guy. This is a real story. Every fact you hear is public. You can check it yourself. If real-life mysteries leave you breathless, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because the next truth we uncover might hit even closer to home. Michael Haight's family was deeply rooted in the LDS Church. He had served in leadership positions, attended temple regularly, led prayers. After the tragedy, many expected a strong public statement from the church. But instead, there was a soft, brief message. We mourn with the victims of this tragic event. Our hearts go out to all those affected. Nothing more. No mention of Michael. No condemnation. No acknowledgement of his role. To some, this was respectful. To others, it was enabling. 2 weeks after the incident, Tausha's friend discovered an old notebook she had once shared with her during counseling sessions. Inside was a page torn at the edges, scribbled in rushed handwriting. He watches everything I do. My phone. My texts. He stands in the hall when I'm in the shower. I'm scared if I leave, something terrible will happen. But staying is killing me too. I don't know what's worse anymore. These words weren't fiction. They were warnings. Written in pain. Ignored until it was too late. Tausha's sister, Summer Earl, agreed to a televised interview just days after the funeral. Her voice trembled, but her message was steady. My sister didn't die from divorce. She died from control. From fear. From a system that tells women to stay silent and smile through the pain. She paused. And Michael. He didn't just kill his wife and kids. He killed futures. He killed hope. The screen faded to black, and thousands of viewers sat in stunned silence. The 5 Haight children had attended local schools. Teachers described them as friendly, hard-working, always smiling. Their desks were left empty for a week. Classmates left notes in their chairs. "You were my best friend. I hope you're happy in heaven. I miss your laugh." Grief counselors struggled to answer questions from students like, "Why would a dad do that? Can it happen to my family too?" The innocence of childhood was shattered that week in Enoch. Investigators and domestic abuse experts examined Michael's past. What they found shocked even seasoned professionals. He once made Tausha delete male friends from Facebook. He tracked her location using phone apps. He discouraged her from working outside the home. He even made her children spy on her. But there were no police reports, no restraining orders, no record of abuse. Because Michael was calculated. He never hit, never screamed in public. Just controlled. Silently. Thoroughly. Until she was trapped. The Haight household finances were all under Michael's name. Even the house deed. The bank accounts. The passwords. Tausha had once told a friend, "If I leave him, I'll have nothing. No money. No car. No place to go." He had created a world where she couldn't escape, not without risking her children's stability. That's why when she finally filed for divorce, it wasn't just paperwork. It was war. Investigators used phone data, security cameras, and neighbor interviews to piece together the last known hours of the Haight family. January 3, 2023, evening. 7 p.m. Dinner. The family sits together. 8:30 p.m. Children get ready for bed. 9 p.m. Michael logs onto his laptop. 10:12 p.m. All exterior doors lock from the inside. 10:30 p.m. Last phone signal from Tausha. 11 p.m. Silence. No neighbors reported gunshots. No alarms were triggered. No screams. It was as if the house had gone completely still. Imagine being in Tausha's place. Trapped. Afraid. No bruises to prove it. No one who believes you. A husband who smiles in public and terrifies in private. Would you have seen the warning signs? Would you have left sooner? Or would you, like Tausha, have waited until it was too late? Each child had their own personality, their own dreams. Macy, 17, bright, musical, wanted to be a nurse. Briley, 12, loved horses, drew unicorns on every paper. Ammon, 7, shy, clung to his mom, never liked loud noises. Sienna, 5, bubbly, asked why 100 times a day. Gavin, 4, laughed at everything, always sticky with candy. They weren't just names. They were lives. And they were stolen by the one person meant to protect them. Today, the Haight family home still stands in Enoch. Empty. Quiet. The windows remain shuttered. The mailbox stuffed with unopened mail. Neighbors avoid walking past it. Some say they hear strange creaks at night. A swing in the backyard moves with no wind. But it's not ghosts that haunt that home. It's memory. A memory that screams in silence. This is not fiction. Every detail is part of a real case that you can verify yourself. These were real people. Real children. A real family destroyed, in silence. As the story gained attention, the internet erupted. Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, all flooded with grief, anger, and confusion. Some blamed the church. Some blamed the justice system. Some blamed toxic masculinity. Others just cried. One viral post read, "This wasn't a tragedy. It was a warning. Listen to women when they say they're scared. Or more children will die." In the months that followed, advocacy groups used the Haight case as a rallying cry, pushed for stronger protections in divorce cases, demanded mental health screenings for parents during custody disputes, urged religious organizations to stop pressuring women to stay in unsafe marriages. One bill, Tausha's Law, was proposed in Utah. It would allow courts to remove guns from homes in high-risk domestic cases. It passed unanimously. But for some, it was too little, too late. Why didn't anyone intervene? Why didn't the system protect them? Could we have stopped it? These questions echo in the community, in the country, in the hearts of every parent. And the answers? Still unclear. Still painful. Still real. From the outside, the Haight family looked perfect. Church every Sunday. Kids in clean clothes. Christmas cards showing wide smiles and matching outfits. Their family photos were filled with sunshine, neatly trimmed lawns, and the image of success. But behind those smiles, there was silence. There was fear. There was a man holding the strings. Michael Haight didn't hit. He didn't yell, at least not in public. He used something much darker to control his family. Isolation. Gaslighting. Control so subtle, it didn't even look like abuse. He wore a mask. And he wore it well. In 2020, Tausha had quietly confided in a local LDS leader. She told him Michael was angry, controlling, and manipulative. She told him she was scared. That she didn't feel safe. The leader listened. Then said, "Try to be more patient. Forgive him. God hates divorce." Tausha didn't press further. Because in her community, going against your husband wasn't just frowned upon, it was seen as rebellion against God. So she stayed. For 3 more years. Until staying became fatal. After the tragedy, Michael's family issued a statement. They said, "Michael was a good man. He was under pressure. He loved his family deeply." They didn't mention the children by name. They didn't acknowledge the brutality of the act. They framed it as a moment of weakness. But killing 8 people, including a baby, wasn't weakness. It was a choice. A plan. A cold, calm extermination. And the public saw right through it. Online outrage exploded. Stop making excuses for monsters. You don't love someone and then take their life. He didn't snap, he controlled every second. One of Tausha's close friends, who had visited the Haight home in 2022, shared a chilling detail in a televised interview. "When I walked in, he was already standing behind the door. Just watching. He didn't say hello. Didn't smile. Just stared. It felt like being in a cage with a quiet lion." Later, Tausha confessed that Michael installed cameras in the house, for security. But she said they were pointed at her chair, her side of the bed, the hallway outside the bathroom. Control wrapped in concern. It wasn't protection. It was surveillance. Michael didn't just want to be seen as a good man. He needed to be admired. At work, he was calm and composed. He brought cookies to meetings. He led employee prayer circles. At church, he offered rides to older members and helped youth group boys fix their bikes. He smiled, nodded, and preached about strong families. But behind closed doors, he raged when things weren't perfect. A shoe out of place? Furious. A missed appointment? Accusation. A defiant word from Tausha? Silent days of punishment. He ran the household like a cult. And everyone had to obey. The divorce filing wasn't spontaneous. Tausha had been planning it for months, maybe years. She quietly opened a separate bank account. She applied for a remote job under a friend's name. She began packing small boxes and hiding them in the garage. Her plan was simple. Serve the papers. Take the kids to her mom's. get a restraining order after the move. But before she could complete it, Michael acted with chilling precision. In February 2023, the autopsy reports were released. They confirmed the horrifying truth. Each victim died from a single gunshot wound. There were no signs of struggle. The shots were fired at close range. Most of the victims were in bed. It meant one thing. They didn't see it coming. They were asleep. Or pretending to be. Or too afraid to scream. One after the other, with military calm, Michael walked room to room and ended their lives. Even the baby. Among the recovered items from the crime scene was a small, locked journal. Inside were notes, presumably Michael's, written in messy handwriting. One entry stood out. "If I can't have them, no one will. I'll take them home to God myself." Another read. "It will be quick, quiet, peaceful. They'll never know." But it wasn't peaceful. It was slaughter. Dressed up in religious delusion. Think about that. An entire bloodline, gone in one night. No one left to tell their story. No one left to pass on memories, smiles, family traditions. The Haight's didn't just lose loved ones. They lost legacy. Even the family dog was found shot. Michael didn't just want to kill. He wanted to erase the red flags we missed. In hindsight, the signs were everywhere. Tausha's growing silence on social media. The kids' missing birthday parties. Tausha showing up with tired eyes and whispered excuses. Michael's intensity about privacy and control. But no one reported it. No one thought it would go this far. Because Michael didn't fit the image of a killer. He wore polos. He paid taxes. He mowed the lawn. He was the monster no one saw coming. This is not fiction. Every word, every detail, is part of a real story. Verified by public documents, autopsies, court records, and first-hand accounts. These were real people. With real birthdays. And they died at the hands of someone they trusted. The Haight family funeral was held in early January. The stage was lined with 8 white caskets. One for each victim. 5 of them, child-sized. A community of 7,000 people gathered to mourn. Some collapsed. Some screamed. Some simply stood in silence. The pastor's voice broke as he read from a letter Tausha wrote before her death. "One day I'll be free. Until then, I hold on for the children. They deserve laughter. They deserve life. That day never came. Would you have seen it coming?" This story forces a question. If this were your neighbor, your cousin, your church friend, would you have noticed? Would you have intervened? Or would you, like so many others, smile back and miss the storm beneath? And today, the house still stands. But it's not a home anymore. It's a graveyard with walls. A silent scream frozen in brick. The toys are still on the porch. The family van still in the driveway. The front door still locked. Inside, echoes of bedtime stories and betrayal. Have you heard this story before? What do you think truly happened that night? If you're drawn to real stories that stay with you, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because every week, we reveal the darkest truths hidden in plain sight. Watch the next video on your screen, or explore our full playlist. The next story might be even more shocking. Enoch, Utah, would never be the same. The quiet town of 7,000 stopped breathing that January. School buses drove past empty houses. Playgrounds echoed with silence. 8 candles flickered in windows across the county, one for every soul lost. People whispered, they seemed so perfect. But behind that perfection was pressure. Behind the pressure, pain. And behind the pain, a man who couldn't let go. Michael didn't leave a note. He didn't apologize. He didn't confess. He left behind photos, files, memories twisted by control. Police found his phone wiped clean, his browser history deleted, his social accounts closed days before the murders. It wasn't rage. It was planned, calculated, cold. He wanted to disappear into the image he created, the faithful husband, the righteous father, the family man. But he didn't get to write the ending. Because we just did. Neighbors say the house is still cold. That porch lights flicker even when the power's fine. That laughter is heard, children's laughter, late at night when no one's around. Some say the home should be torn down. Others say it should stand, as a warning, as a memorial, as the place where the truth finally surfaced. In Tausha's desk drawer, police found a letter, stamped, addressed, never mailed. It read, "If you're reading this, I didn't make it out. Please don't let people forget us. We were real. We tried. We loved each other in the dark. Tell our story. And mean it. We are. Right now." This is the verified, documented story of the Haight family tragedy. A mother, a grandmother, 5 children, and a truth no one wanted to see, until it was too late. Subscribe to @Unbelievable True Story. Because the next name, the next scream, the next silence, could be closer than you think. Watch our next video, and never look at perfect families the same way again.